Welcome to the show, everybody. Our guest, Deanna Hann, is best known as a transformational coach, a sought-after public speaker, an author, and an educator and a mentor. And as she often says in her bio, she is not limited to any of these. She is so much more. And yeah, I'm very excited. So, Deanna, welcome to the show.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. And now, this is the reason I brought you on. So when I came across your profile, you had this incredible story about going into the Amazon and being brought in by, I think it was like shaman or tribes or whatever. But if you could
Yes.
please share with myself and everybody just the story of your life in general, and
Mm.
start as early as you'd like, but how has your life led you to the person you are today?
I'm thankful for the dark and the light because the dark became the light for me, actually. And going to the Amazon jungle was a gift from my ex-husband, actually, because he
Mm.
saw me just disappearing in so many ways with all the pills that I had to take from the car accident and from the Great Depression that I was into. So when I went there, I was truly lost. I felt like I was no longer a teacher, a mother, a wife, or anything. And I was spiraling down. The pills I took were in a jar about that big. They looked like jelly beans. They numbed me to my life and they depressed me. And what I mean by that is what was going on inside me in my subconscious. The medical field was just basically treating my symptoms. It wasn't getting at the root of the problem. So, through my trip to the Amazon jungle, I was able to go deeper into who I was. And I believe we all truly need to know the who am I piece in life. And I really got that. And through that journey, I was told that I was a goddess, and I looked at these people like they were crazy. Me, a goddess? I had no confidence in myself, especially after all the things I'm telling you that I was going through. But the truth is, we are all goddess if we follow our inner compass. We're God inside. And everything that we do will bring light to us if we're able to forgive ourselves for sometimes what I'll call our perfectly imperfections. And we all have them. So when we meet people and things happen and we struggle, that sometimes we can spiral down. But when you believe in the universe and the universe got your back, truly, you can spiral up and you can elevate yourself. And I call it being a human vibrator. And it sounds crazy, but that was my tagline in front of over 40,000 women a few years ago. And truly, we need to vibrate higher with our energy and believing in ourselves. And by going to the Amazon jungle, I learned to do that. I learned through my compass to have compassion for myself and for others as well, and to be able to learn to balance that in my life. And I called that my goddess compass. And I even wrote a book called The Goddess Compass because it's my transformational journey, which was an inner journey. I've been
Mm.
all around the world, but the best vacation I ever had was the inner journey. It truly was. I had to unpack a lot of things, and then I had to pack up things and leave things behind. And I mean that in a mental way. And physically, I became stronger for it. And to this day, I take absolutely no medication. I was depressed. I had an airline fracture from a car accident in my vertebra.
Ooh.
I walked with a cane for 8 months, and my life fell apart. I broke apart. But when you break apart, it's like you let the light in. You really can let the light in, and those cracks become healed. And I really feel that's what happened. So now, like I was saying to this beautiful human being here that's hosting this show, the universe got my back. And when things happen for me, I always ask the universe, what's the message? And sometimes I don't get the answer right away. but I process deeper and I go into that inner journey, and it teaches me so many life lessons. So I calm myself down that way. That's just a little bit. I don't know if you want to ask me any questions, but it's just the Cole's Notes version of my
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah, definitely. I was yeah, how old were you when this car accident happened and then when you went to the Amazon?
Oh my goodness. Math's not one of my biggest skills, but the accident happened about the same time that my father passed away, and that was
Mm,
2008.
mm,
So it happens, shortly after my dad passed away. But again, when I look back at that, that was the universe telling me to slow down. I was a full-time teacher, full-time mother. I was also running another business on the side, working on my master's in teaching and learning.
wow.
I think the car accident and running a beautiful business, I had an Icelandic high-end clothing store on top of that. Like, how much
Jeez.
do you need to do to create an identity of happiness? Happiness is an inside journey. All of those things now are just a part of who I am, you know?
Wow. And
I
so
know
for
I had too much on the plate, and smack like
yeah.
that, the universe told me to take a break, get it
Mm,
together.
wow. And yeah, I'm thinking about that and I think I'm sometimes often actually blown away by the thought leaders or the mentors in the world, the Tony Robbins, these
Hmm.
people that achieve something great at a time of their life. Could be early, could be late. And it's like I think a lot of the time, we come across them when they've made it. We don't see the car accident. We don't see the depression. We don't see the breakup of a marriage. We only see Tony Robbins when he's Tony Robbins. We
Hmm.
never saw, with all these people. And I think, yeah, I think sometimes we can think that people, like some people are just, special. And I think, to a degree, some people are born, come into this world with a numerology and an astrology profile that is, in some sense, destined for a kind of greatness, a larger than life greatness, a greatness that will touch millions of people. And other people come in the world to have a greatness that touches five, their family.
Yes.
Or,
Hmm.
and I think there's these different levels of it. And I know with me, I've, uh, I've struggled. Like I'm 27 right now, and I've struggled my entire life up until probably 4 months ago, trying to figure out like if I was special. Because for me, I was expelled twice growing up. I was suspended probably 20 to 26 times. I had a very like extremely critical father, abusive household, yelling, screaming, some physical stuff, but mostly emotional abuse in a big way. And then losing all my friends in grade 9, and it's like my whole life. And what's interesting is when I look at my numerology profile, I'm an 11, which is all about leadership and confidence. And so
Mm.
it's interesting. And like when I looked into and researched numerology, apparently what those numbers are is every number stands for some path in life. And so for mine was,
Yes.
leadership and confidence, right? And then actually, because I'm an 11, it comes together and it creates a two, which is all about cooperation. So it's
Right.
a two formed by two ones, which is double leadership
Hmm.
and confidence. And when I researched it, it was like people that have an 11, and actually, I think Tony Robbins also has an 11, and Bill Clinton, oddly enough. But when I looked at it, it said that people that have whatever that number symbolizes, the person who carries that number goes through usually the first half of their life having a deficit of whatever that is. So most people come into the world with an average level of leadership and confidence. They get along with people. They take part in groups, no problem. They can step into leadership positions, kind of ebbing and flowing, nothing radically over, but it's natural, right? And then me, on the other hand, I was so broken down when I was a kid, where I had zero confidence. Literally up until 6 months ago, I told myself a story for a survival reason that I don't like leading because I don't like telling other people how they should live their lives, because I don't like other people telling me how to live my life. And while that's still a fundamental thing about me, is I do my best to allow other people to be fully themselves. And even I've sometimes, like, also because of that lack of a boundary, when I was growing up, that lack of self-esteem, that being crushed down to nothing, and just like, you're not good enough, you need to be this, you need to be that, who you, like, fundamentally, like, the thing was like, who you are is not who you should be. I was too sensitive, I was too emotional, I was, literally all of these things, and so it was like, it was always, I'm surprised I even got where I am today, because it was always like, who you are is not who you should be. And something in me kept me fighting along, like, and there's also a rebellious part of me. There's always a part of me, again, to get expelled twice and get suspended 20 to 26 times. There's a level of an element of, you can't tell me who I'm supposed to be. And it did kind of crush me, especially because all of these things happened before grade 5. Grade 5, my mom tells me, she's like, grade 5, life finally crushed you. Like, you stopped rebelling. You stopped getting expelled. You stopped getting suspended. And from the outside, that would look like, oh, great, he's not getting expelled and suspended. But on a much deeper level, it's like, another way you can look at that is, he gave up. Like, he stopped trying to be himself. It was too painful to get expelled and have his dad come in or suspended, and his dad just like ream him down. You know what I mean? Repeatedly, just slashing at the knees over and over. And so finally I just gave in. And oddly enough, I came in this world highly rebellious, critical thinking, always asking why. Like, again, a massive challenge for me was, my mom says, like, I would always ask why. So if I get an answer, why is that? Well, because of this. Yeah. Well, why is that? Because, like, and it was essentially how I perceive it now, is there's a consciousness thread in me that, in some sense, I was a philosopher with a brain that couldn't do philosophy. Because again, what 5-year-old can start asking questions about Albert Einstein and Nikola Tesla? So what is a philosopher early in life, before they have the worldly understanding to know what the world is around them? They end up just asking why all the time. When someone says something, there's why? Because that is the spiritualist, that is the philosopher, that is the psychologist, is the person that wants to know, well, what is above that? What's above that? What's above that? And really, it's almost, some atheists go down this track, but I think it's always like this kind of question of, like, what is the universe? I think that when you ask why so many times, you end up just getting higher and higher and higher. And then you get to a point where, okay, you ask questions about human nature, and you go, okay, well, why are humans like that? Then you get into the spiritual, because psychology can tell you, in some sense, this is just my belief of it, psychology, the limit of psychology is the human being. And then as soon as, like, you almost get through the human being, you almost get into sociology. And then it's about how groups of human, because we're not in a vacuum. So it's like the limit of psychology is understanding the individual in a vacuum. Obviously, that's not all of it, but in some degree, it's a very individualistic view of the human being, in my experience. And then when you get above that, you get into sociology, which is, it's not just an individual. We're part of a collective, and we're part of a society, right. and even you get deeper than that, and this hive mind of spirituality, Carl Jung, the collective unconscious, and you get into these like, again, everything, when you start to ask more and more and more questions, you can't help but getting more esoteric, because you realize that then you get into beyond sociology, is that we're all linked from a consciousness level. And then you ask, okay, well, what about genetic memory? What about epigenetics? What about generational trauma? And then when you get into generational trauma, it's like, okay, where is that stored? Is that stored in the body? Is that stored outside the body? And then, another one of my questions was always out of body experiences. If you can die and then you can have an experience of an out of body experience and retain that memory when you are resuscitated, and you can tell the doctor, because this actually happened to a friend of mine. He was clinically dead. And when he was dead, the doctors were having a conversation. He comes back in his body and he tells the doctors the conversation they're having when he was dead. And then the question is, okay, well, if you can store a memory when the part of your brain that usually articulates and processes experiences and stores memories, if that thing is offline, but you can still have access to the memory, what does that say about memory? What does that say about experiences? Where are they stored? Then you get into the field, and I know I'm really getting passionate here.
Everything is connected. Everything is connected.
Right?
That's where it goes, right? The universe. So everything that happens to you, I believe, makes you who you are. That's why we need to accept the dark and the light that makes us. We're all beautiful mosaics, so we got to learn to love every part of us and learn to live through that. And through that transformation, we can find that peace, love, and joy within ourselves to be able to share in our oneness. And I really like how you mentioned Tony Robbins, because I trained Jane Jewell, who was one of the founders when Tony Robbins first started out. She's the female version. And I also like that you mentioned life's purpose. That's Daniel Goleman's. That's a formula, right? Your life's purpose is based on the formula. You mentioned the 11 is the 2. So I remember doing that and figuring out I am meant to do this too. This is a part of my journey to coach and help people through my experience. And nobody can do it exactly like me, but I know that I've listened to my heart. And when you take the word heart and you look at the word earth, it's the same letters. We are all one. We're one heart. We're one earth. So we're all connected. So when I talk about that vibration as well. So my energy and my vibration connected me to you on this podcast. And it looks like we've had similar journeys. I had no confidence as a kid. My gosh. It was unreal. I was the little girl that was scared to open her mouth and even give herself a compliment, alone speak up for myself if I was doing something that someone thought was wrong. And the thinking about outside the box part. I always beat a different drum. I always traveled a road less traveled. I think that's Scott Pick, the book. I don't know if you're familiar with it. But the inner journey was being the loner and trying to figure it out. And I question everything. And philosophy is your thoughts, right? Yeah. So if you question your thoughts and everybody's telling you what to do and what to say and what to think, how can you love yourself like that if everybody is, scrambling and trying to make you something that you don't want to be? You got to find your own way. And once you find your own way, that's how you become confident. Really believe that with all my heart and soul.
Yeah. And I'd actually love to get into this with you. What was little Deanna like? Because this is my hypothesis, is that I feel like who we are when we come into the world is like, it's a pure version of who we become. It's like without the conditioning, it's like obviously we become more intelligent, we become more knowledgeable and wise, but it's like the core energy I feel is very similar to when we come in the world. So for you, what was little Deanna like in the first, take us through the first 10 years?
Deanna was the curious Georgina. You've heard of the curious George? I was the curious Georgina. I always had to experiment and figure things out on my own. I was an avid reader. I loved books like Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys
Yeah.
and the Bobbsey Twins and all of those books. They were so addicted, and that was my escape from reality. It was such a fantasy world. And I'm still a dreamer, and my dreams have come alive. I mean, I looked at my journal that I wrote when I was in the Amazon,
Oh,
and
wow.
everything in my journal have come true.
Wow.
And it didn't come on the calendar like this is going to happen at a certain day. It happened. Oh my gosh, I've done that. I've done this. And I'm so grateful that I believe in that stuff because now there's living proof, that your dreams can really come alive when you believe enough. Yeah. So
Mm.
Dina was a very to herself. Like I did have friends, but I was very shy. I didn't pick up for myself. I would even go so far as to say I was the doormat for many people. No
Mm.
more. Yeah. Yeah, there was times I just didn't want to rock the boat and I have no problem rocking the boat now, but I do it with a gentle rock, with peace and love and joy, and I park my ego because I really believe that everybody has value just like I do. I'm no better than anybody else, but I'm no worse. So when I have a conversation or
Mm.
interaction with them, I'll try to, cultivate as much compassion as I can. And how can I meet my needs and align with someone else's needs at the same time, right? So I didn't know those skills when I was younger and I spiraled down in many ways. And I think that's why I got depressed despite some very traumatic things happened to me. I did get sick, in many ways. So I found my way and I'm not going back to that darkness. I took that darkness and I made it light, and I'll continue to put more light out there with my high vibration.
Mm.
Mhm. And
Very
I'm still a
beautiful.
dreamer and I'll never stop dreaming.
Yeah, me too. I read fiction for an hour before bed still every night. That's still part of what I do is just again, like you said, getting lost in fantasy worlds and stuff. And
Yeah.
one question I have for you, because this is something I'm still figuring out, because I still go through emotional fluctuations
Mhm.
quite often, and I'm curious when you say like you came from darkness and now you've made it light and you won't go back into the darkness, if I'm paraphrasing correctly.
Mhm.
How do you view the natural ebb and flow of your emotional state and the possible ebb and flow of darkness and light in order to go through a period of darkness to better appreciate the light and get a contrast and an empathy for the different aspects of life itself? How do you view that?
Um, I view that in a number of ways. So you're asking me how do I use my ebb and flow now and how that connects to my emotions, or the
Yeah.
reverse? I just need to make that clear
Yeah, the
because it's
prior
like a
more.
dichotomy in a way, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, because like I guess to specifically ask my question, it's like I kind of I have a belief in some sense, and it is a belief, it's something I've chosen to believe that life takes us up and it takes us down in a way to like understand life in some sense. Because if all you are is happy and blissed out all the time, I feel in some sense this is just again I could be wrong here, but I feel like you lose the ability possibly to appreciate the dark. I feel like almost dark and light are two sides of a whole, like
Mhm.
yin and yang.
Yeah.
It's almost like again it's like the yin yang symbol is like the black and the white, and there's a black within the white and there's a white within the black. And so
Right.
someone like you, like I'm very inspired by the fact that you have found a way to be sustainably happy, content, and joyful in your life. And I'm wondering, do you ever go through periods of, I don't know, low depression, darkness?
Absolutely. I am
Okay.
human, but my spirit elevates me. Oh my goodness. I'm so glad you asked that question. Happiness is a state of mind, but it's not steady Like anything in
Mm.
life, like we're constantly changing. Change is the only thing is constant. So are the emotions that are emotional, you know, they move with you. So regarding the ebb and flow, my goodness, I've had dips but what I like is all the personal development that I've done. I don't stay in the suffering
Mm.
and the darkness very often because I've done enough of it. I don't want to go back there. And I'm going to add something onto that. I call it my um, little spectrum. There's love on this side and there's fear on this side. When you have fear, you sometimes get caught in the dark and you don't know that you're enough. But when you love yourself and you love other people, you're able to balance it on that spectrum and get it right and align it. And I really feel that's what helps me stay afloat and get over any of what I call my dark emotions, the ones that I accept because I really believe every emotion is valid. But
Mm.
with the ebb and flow, my goodness, that's life. There's ups and downs. And like you said, you wouldn't appreciate the love and the joy and the peace if you didn't experience the darkness so deeply. So I feel now my love is so deep and so intense and so powerful, and the vibration is so high, is because I went from the lowest to the low. I was
Mm.
literally in bed for days suffering. I
Mm.
didn't have any value for food. My heart was broken in so many ways. Like my life was just drifting away. But now I know how valuable I am. And I'm on this purpose. I'm on this planet to spread love and hope and faith and joy for anybody who's suffering. And that's anybody with sickness of a mental sort or a physical sort, and people whose spirit is just dimmed so much because of the trauma in their life. I've experienced it all, so and I always say to my clients when I coach, God do not create junk. And he never started with you. And that brings me back. And I realize sometimes there's some junky things that can happen. But when they happen, it's just like, what is the lesson from the universe? And how can I throw that junk away, shut it in a drawer, get rid of it, and learn the lesson from it and break the pattern and break the cycle that gets me to the darkness. So, yes, I still experience darkness. We all do. That's life. There's dark and light. Look at our 24-hour days, not in every
Yeah.
part of the universe, but there's light and dark everywhere. It's light and dark in our life, but that's what makes us appreciate the light even more, isn't it? And go towards it instead of the dark. Always go towards the light any way I can. I might stumble and fall at times because we do that in the dark, don't we? Because we can't see. But truly, my eyes are awakened to always go towards the light as much as I can.
Hmm. I hear you. So what I get from that is that, all human beings go through these fluctuations of emotion. Sometimes you wake up with just a feeling for whatever reason. And from what I gathered from what you were saying is that so much of the suffering is us being terrified of that feeling and us beating ourselves up. Why are we feeling this way? I shouldn't be feeling this way. Then you hear your father, your mother in your ear saying, you're feeling this way because you're not good enough. And then really it's like the suffering is the initial thing, but then what catalyzes it and becomes suffering is all of the stories and things you're telling yourself. And essentially like you're trying to run away from it, and trying to run away from the feeling is what causes
Yeah,
anxiety. And then when
that's
you
the fear,
feel, you
isn't
get
it?
caught in this anxiety fear loop and it just spirals. So what I gathered from what you said is just like, okay, like things happen. I feel a certain way and I meet it with love. I accept it and I go, yeah, this is a feeling. I'm going to feel this right now. I appreciate myself and I love myself enough that no matter what happens in my body, in my mind, in my emotional state, I'm going to love and accept because this is a part of me and I love myself. And then very quickly that alchemizes that feeling and you just let it pass like a, like a cloud. And it might be there for four. And maybe also, something I sometimes think about is that, maybe just like we have these like circadian rhythms during the day, we have our waking, our sleep cycle, melatonin production at night, and cortisol in the morning. Maybe sometimes, maybe if you wake up feeling a certain way, maybe that's literally like your body saying, don't go to the gym today, relax, read a book, or meditate. But what we want to do is we want to go, well, no, I go to the gym every single morning at 10:30 a.m. And if I feel bad at 10:30, I'm still going to go to the gym. And your body's like, it's not like that. You can't just, as you said, life changes, and you're trying to put a routine, a fixed, unchanging routine on life's natural cycles, and then you wonder why you get pissed off, anxious, or you spiral when you're denying your own physical reality, emotional reality, and just reality. You're just denying what is in the moment, and you're demanding that it change. And then you're blaming yourself for why you can't be perfect and why am I feeling this way right now? And it's like, it's just, maybe you're supposed to just drink hot cocoa or something. Like maybe it's rainy and, the sun's not giving you that almost boost of endorphins or feel-good chemical that would usually allow you to go for your extroverted step into the world. Maybe today is an inwards day. Maybe it's a work-in day, not a workout day.
Exactly.
And
that's great. And that's your introverted side too. Like, we're all extroverts and introverts, and balancing that is hard sometimes in life. Some people say, I'm so introverted, I don't want to go outside. But the truth is we're all social creatures and we do need to connect with people in our collectivity. But again, there's times you just need to do that self-compassionate inner journey rather than go outside. So that's the ebb and flow part too, in the yin and yang. There's the inside of you where your light is, and you got to get your light bright or there's no point going out because you're going to be parking your ego on everybody's front step, and you don't want to do that. You want to go out and let go of that ego and just and return to love in everything that you're doing. So I say, okay, going to the gym. If you're going there, you're not going to be in a great mood if you're not feeling well, right? So what are you going to bring in the front door? You're going to bring in your ego. I'm here. I'm trying to make my body in good shape, and I need to do this to get my mind all right. You're better off rejuvenating yourself with your gifts that you were born with. I believe that.
I hear you. And I also want to go back to something you mentioned, because I found this very interesting. I was having a conversation with someone about this the other day. But you mentioned God. If I recall correctly, you mentioned God and you mentioned He. Now, obviously, that's a very one way to look at it is that is a very religious way of looking at it. And I'm not saying, and I'm going to add on to this, because from my perspective, in some sense, God, the universe, how we perceive it is how we need to perceive it in the moment. So sometimes, especially channels, I feel will have this, where sometimes God comes as a man or like a masculine energy. Sometimes God comes as a feminine energy. And like I've had channeled experiences, I've had psychic experiences myself, and I've had one where it was clearly a masculine energy. And so I'm curious with you, how do you perceive God, the universe, and how do you perceive that in terms of masculine, feminine, or even something beyond even those two polarities?
Thank you for that question as well. And I've pondered that one a lot, but I'll always say God is compass. So obviously I connect to the female version of it too. But I say he because that's the traditional thing that I've been taught all my life. But I really don't know, if this will resonate with you or not. But I believe we are all God's children. I really believe that. And we have energies inside of us that are masculine and feminine. and we all have certain amounts, and that's what makes us all very unique. So the goddess and the god live inside of us. There's no clear, you know, female or male version of God. We are all God's children, and we're all uniquely made, and our journey has made us all unique as well, and we were born unique. So that's part of it. And I believe all the lessons that we learn in our life, if we go towards the light, I think we become a mirror of God or Goddess's children. If we go towards the light, if we don't go towards the light, or we stumble in the dark and stay there for too long, then we lose our God will, you know, our God light, our God love, because we know that we were all created out of love, right? And we are co-creators as well. So I'm spiraling a little bit around your answer because it's a tough one. Yeah. But I really believe a big part towards going for the light for me is two big things. One is gratitude for everything that I've had and everything that I've been through. And I mean the dark things that brought me here, the things that I suffered through, because that's how I learned to really appreciate the light, and I don't want to suffer anymore. And not only the gratitude part, but another part that is really strong in me is also the fact that I am the light. And by learning to forgive people, I bring light to them, and I lighten their burdens, and I lighten my own burden. And that's a form of freedom for me. And I always say, if I ever met God someday, because we all hope to meet him or her, if he ever asked me a question, if I ever said to him, sorry, my goodness, I'm so sorry for what I did 5 years ago. What are you talking about? I don't remember. So that is my philosophy. And if we do that and live our lives and not hold grudges for people, but take the lessons learned and let it go. It's in the past. Yesterday's not on the calendar. Neither are you. Neither is the situation. You've learned from it. You can break that pattern. Then your light shines so much more brighter when you do that. And that's where the peace and the love and joy on earth, you know, can grow. And we can cultivate that through compassion as well. So that's how I look at God or Goddess.
I feel that. And yeah, it's interesting because, yeah, I've been thinking about this forgiveness a lot lately. Because even just yesterday, I had a tough, I have obviously just like everybody, some tough relationships in my life, a lot of time with family members, and I could feel some resentment coming up with this person towards me. And so I asked them yesterday, I was like, hey, I feel like, I feel some possible resentment coming up. Like, how are you feeling about our relationship? And and they just like, yeah, viciously, I don't want to say attacked me, but they're just saying all the things that they don't appreciate about me and don't value about me, and that I'm selfish and I don't care about anyone and all these things, and bring up some things I did like, years ago and these things, and it was tough. It was tough to just stand there and look them in the eyes and go, like, after I think they were talking for like 15 minutes, just like stream of conscious, all the things that they highly disliked about me. And then at the end, it was like, I think one of the final statements, I don't remember it completely, but essentially it was like, it was almost like, you need to see this. Like, you need to see that you're selfish and all these things. And then I was just like, I took a deep breath and I was just like, oh, yeah, I hear you. And then I asked them, like, would you like to hear my perspective about some of these things? and my side of these events that we've both been part of. And they like reluctantly, they're like, oh, okay. And so I went through it, and I wasn't necessarily like saying they were wrong. I was just saying like, I'm a human being too. And a lot of these things that maybe I do, I'm usually in a fear state. I'm usually afraid. I'm usually hurt. And I don't, if I do anything to hurt you, it's like, I'm not trying to do this. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm hurting. I have trauma. I have wounds from my childhood, that get triggered sometimes. And it was an interesting thing because after we had that conversation, we like hugged it out, and it was very nice. And then I went for a walk for an hour and a half, I think. And I was realizing that all of these examples of things that hurt, or maybe things I've done 10 years ago, 5 years ago, a few months ago, when I looked at these things, I realized that they don't hurt because they are blaming me and they are making me hurt. They hurt because I haven't forgiven myself. There's still a part of me that, yeah, is partly ashamed. And it's like, it's not like they're bringing something up and creating a pain and handing it to me. It's like there's already a pain in me, or shame or guilt or something. And they are just, reminding me of something I possess. And really where the hurt is like, I'm like, please don't remind me of this thing because I haven't dealt with it. And I think a lot of the time, because we don't realize, or at least I don't realize, that the weapons other people use to stab me is not their weapon, it's my own weapon, and they're using it. And they're bringing it up, and I'm stabbing myself with my own weapon. And so, like, there's one of the things that, I reflected on yesterday, and I was like, okay, like, I need to forgive myself for doing this thing, because it really hurts when other people bring it up, and it makes me very difficult to move on with my life, because it's hard sometimes to, I sincerely believe I'm here. I sincerely believe I have a lot of love in my heart, and I'm here to love people, love myself, and bring light to the world. And I do what I can to be in integrity, to be authentic, to be loving and kind. And it sometimes like keeps me up at night. These things that I've done, or these things in my personality that are at odds with the very values I want to step into. And in some sense, I feel like I can't step into these higher values when I still possess this guilt and the shame of things I've done in the past. And so what I did is, I went through it yesterday on my walk, and I, forgave myself for a couple of these things, so that I can finally be the person I want to be without feeling like, because I think in some sense it's natural to want to step into something greater and feel like you're a fraud because of something you've done, because in some sense not saying you should feel like a fraud, but in some sense you should feel like a fraud because you still have that and you haven't forgiven yourself. And it's up to you to forgive yourself so that you no longer need to ffeel like a fraud. It's almost like a choice. Right. It's like, okay, you still haven't looked at this. You've repressed this. And because you've repressed it, it hurt. It's like when someone brings it up, it's like they're tearing the thing that you've repressed right back up. And you're like, no, I've tried to put that away. I don't want to see that. Don't remind me of it. And it's like life is constantly presenting you your repressed emotions and your repressed feelings. So it's like, you don't need this anymore. Like, we're not making you face this to hurt you or to crucify you. We're bringing this up so you can finally let it go, so you can become who you want to be. Because the thing holding you back from that is the guilt and the shame of you unable to forgive yourself for something you've done in the past,
Exactly. So forgiveness unlocks your potential, right? And you have to be that soul without shame. We've all made mistakes in life. We've all erred, but as long as we've grown from them, that's what's most essential. That's our essence, you know.
Yeah.
Regarding the conversation that you had with them yesterday, what I would say as I'm talking to them under my breath is, I forgive you, I forgive you, I forgive you. Are you familiar with the Ho'oponopono prayer? Are
No.
anybody? Yeah, you are?
No, I'm not.
Oh my gosh, it's the most powerful thing. I have it on my door upstairs, and I use it in my coaching as well. And I think it's very important here because I say yesterday is not on the calendar, and neither are we, neither is the situation. But what I say is not to anybody in particular. Again, it's to the universe. It's, I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. I'm sorry. So I'm saying that to start a new day because yesterday is not on the calendar. I'm not saying it to my loved ones in particular, but under my breath, if there's been an interaction in the past, I'm saying it to everybody because guess what? That's a very important prayer that starts you with a blank slate moving forward. You have grown in so many ways, Anton, from the things in the past. That's called growing pains, you know, at times, and you can be a pain to others and you experience that pain too, right?
Yeah.
So it comes together in that Opono prayer. I really believe that. So we have to be that soul without shame. And the other part I'd like to say is when you forgive, you do unlock your potential, but you also leave room in your heart for something more beautiful, more love in your heart when you forgive. You have space in your heart because your heart is expanding, it's opening. But when you don't forgive, it's like you've got your heart locked up like that, you know? And that's not good energy. So you want to raise that energy by opening your heart, by forgiving yourself and forgiving others. I truly believe that's how we unlock our full potential.
Thank you.
Mm.
Oh man, I definitely want to step into that.
So Byron Brown, Soul Without Shame is a good book I highly recommend here. It will make you crystal clear how important it is to forgive and to be that soul without shame. Because nobody came in this world with a manual or a woe manual or whatever, and we will grow together. And the togetherness is the important part with the one heart, one earth, and with our loved ones like family and relationships. The forgiveness is essential. Gotta forgive yourself too. Because we all make mistakes. And if you don't think you made a mistake, you're caught too much in your ego and you will never find a lasting love.
Yeah, I'm really excited about my future. Like, I feel like I'm going through a lot of stuff right now in my 20s to allow something really beautiful in. Like I've talked to some, Vedic astrologers and astrologers have had consultations and readings.
I'm into that too. Wow. Vedic
Yeah,
astrology. It's so cool. It's
I
a bit
love
complicated, but I'm getting there.
Yeah, and it's like, I've talked to psychics and I'm like, yeah, someone a Vedic astrologer told me like I'm going through my Saturn returns very soon. Starting next month is when my Saturn return starts. And she's like, it's going to be very, very powerful for you because it's going to transform. And she even told me, she's like,
a lot of change.
She's like, I don't recommend getting in a long-term relationship until you're 32. Because she's like, you have this period where you're going to be rapidly evolving and changing. And she's like, you either have to kind of allow yourself to be free to flow and evolve and change without, in some sense, a great partner won't chain you and a great partner won't keep you in a box. But a lot of people are caught up in the traumas. And a lot of people will subconsciously want you to be something they understand. And when I'm shifting and evolving so rapidly, either it's best to be by myself or find someone who can truly be on that path with me and evolve with me and not chain me and be like, hey, Anton is evolving.
Unlock you.
Yeah, because he might be different in a year than he is now. He might be a very much different and evolved person from the person I fell in love with. And sometimes when one party changes so much and another party stays the same or changes at a lesser rate, it causes this friction because the vibration is different now. In some sense, they become out of alignment, and it's painful when that happens because you don't try to leave that person behind. You don't try to push them away, but it's like the very nature of you evolving makes it very apparent that maybe this doesn't work the way it used to. There's a certain glue that kept this thing working. You were in a similar place. You were in a certain similar mindset. You had a similar view of existence. You had a similar view of the world, of how both of you were in the world and your roles in the world. And when you are constantly evolving and changing and shifting, it can be very difficult for someone who can sometimes feel like they've been left behind. And I've been in both sides of that in my life. I've been on the feeling of being left behind, and I've been on the side of I'm not trying to, but I have less and less and less in common with someone that I used to love so much. And it's the question arises of, what do we do? You know what I mean? Like when the very glue that makes us feel so connected starts to kind of dissipate, and there's this kind of feeling of like a void left. And, in my experience, the best thing to do is just have a conversation about it and just be very open and honest to be like, hey,
That's right.
this is how I'm feeling. And how are you feeling? How does this feel like for you? This is how it feels like for me. And how do you see this friendship and relationship operating in the future? Because I want you to be happy too. And again, I think a lot of the time we cling on to the memories of how things were. And we're like, oh, it was so great when things were like this. And we're almost always waiting for it to get back to that sometimes. And then sometimes it's the question of like, hey, I know, things were beautiful and we had something beautiful in the past, but I don't think that will ever, come back because I'm moving forward. And and again, this only exists for who I used to be. And so, I feel just with like evolution and change and my Saturn returns and Vedic astrology, it's like a lot of things are happening. And all of this was to say your point about, getting to a point in your life where you're content. I'm not fully there yet, but I know I'm going to get there. I feel like there's just this Saturn returns period I think is going to bring up a lot of shadows in me, a lot of pain, a lot of hurt, so that I can finally forgive all of these things I've felt and things I've done and things that have been done not to me, but just relationships I've taken part in and how those relationships have impacted me. And I think this will bring up all of those things, as you said, so I can forgive them, so that I can step into my potential with my podcast and my career and the things I'm going to do in the world. Because I feel like in some sense, I'm going to do much more in the world than I'm doing now. I feel like as things evolve, as my energy expands, I'm going to be able to take on more in the world and be drained less by each thing. Because right now, I think where you are vibrationally is like there's a limitation to how much you can give, because you just give a certain amount and you get drained. And as you evolve, your capacity to hold energy and maintain your own sense of well-being and energy reserves, and you learn how to more effectively and efficiently recharge your own batteries. And I think there'll be a time when I am, doing work in South America and, doing my podcast and I think I'll be able, because I see myself doing that. I don't see myself staying in Canada all the time. I see myself traveling the world and meeting the human beings of the world, because I live a very isolated existence right now where I feel like I'm just so focused on myself and evolving and letting go of things I need to let go of, that I don't have as much to give the world as I'd like to. But I know in the future, as I evolve through these things, I'm going to get to a place where I have so much more to give of myself and to be of service with other people, that I'm just really excited for like when I'm 35 years old or 40 years old, and just, yeah, the beauty I'll be able to bring.
I can feel it. I can feel it. So forgiveness, to go back to that again, forgiveness, the word give and gift is so connected. So it's truly a gift you give to yourself to create that freedom in your heart to do everything you want. Because, you know, your heart aches when you don't forgive. You have that bitterness, and that's a lower vibration. So when you release that, you will elevate at a higher level in everything you do, not just as a person, but as your career, your spirit, everything. And that's what will get you to South America. And I can set up some contacts for you too. Aww. Yeah, it's my soul family there for sure.
Wow. Oh, of course. I that just clicked with me when you're like, I have contacts. I'm like, that's interesting. And it clicked. I'm like, wait a minute. Deanna's the one who went to the Amazon. Of course she has all these amazing things. Well, wow.
But everybody's my family. I've expanded my family. I truly don't leave anybody out anymore. You know? If they want to leave me out, that's their choice. But I will still connect to them through my spirit world and, you know, my mental world. I will think about them and send them good vibes. But if they don't want to spend time with me physically, that's their choice. And I accept that too. I'm not everybody's cup of tea.
Yeah, that's even a thing I think I realized in like astrology and just personalities is like, there was a time in my career when this was more like 2.5 years ago, when the wounds I had from childhood led me, like my vision was I wanted everybody to like me. Like I wanted to be so pure and likable.
Pleaser.
100%. Where I was like, if I just do a good job of being kind and loving, everybody will like me, and that is going to be my destiny. And now I've realized, like, just like literally, it seems like there's these archetypal personalities, and like even if you look at zodiac signs, there's the air signs. They all trine, meaning they all have harmonious energy signatures. So Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius, all of those signs are literally in harmony. They form a triangle in the zodiac. All of the fire signs do the same thing. The earth signs and the water signs, and like right there. It kind of like, and then this is interesting too, is every sign has an oppositional sign, which doesn't mean it's bad. It means that
it's going to teach you lessons though.
Exactly. And it's a sign that values the exact opposite thing in life. But they're actually, if you can learn to reconcile them, you realize they're actually symbiotic in a way. That they actually, like, again, life is all about duality, and there is no one way to perceive life and have an experience. And these things are these ways. And so when I look at personalities, like there's a time when I thought if I was just the best version of my personality, everybody would like me. And now I realize that if I'm the most, you know, full of that personality that I am, I'm going to be so magnetic to a certain kind of human being, and I will be in some sense so repulsive to another, like almost like a battery in some sense. I feel like it's not going to be repulsive as in disgusting or judgmental, but when I am so aligned with my energy signature, it is going to just naturally repel, just like two magnets, a certain energy signature. Because I've realized that I'm just like, for whatever reason, there's certain personalities that just don't gel with mine. And even you know, they're good people, and I've had podcast meetings with these kinds of people, and I'm like, why is this not working? Why is there like dead energy? Why is there just there's a lack of resonance? And I've racked my brain of like, what is that? Like, am I not good enough? Am I not enough of myself? Or are they not? And I've just realized, as I said, and
I'm going to put the light on that one now, but do you mind if I turn my light on? Because it's getting dark here.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll be right back. excuse me for a second. So regarding that, the light part, when you said, I'm not good enough, what I've realized, because we're all connected regarding that part, when someone is not happy and you're not their cup of tea, it's not about you. It's about them. It's about what they're lacking. It's about what they're struggling with. And not always lacking, that's probably not the right word, but they're going through their journey, and sometimes it aligns with yours and sometimes it doesn't. And that's okay. You just have to accept what is, and if it doesn't connect, it's because of, it's not so much about you, it's about them. Always. I don't take on other people's grief in that way. Being a counselor, when I'm online and stuff and helping with people, the bitterness and the anger and the sorrow and everything, they're still suffering. I don't want them to suffer. I don't want anybody to suffer. But if they want to just stay with the bitterness and knock people down and, just be very angry, that's a lower vibration. So I have to almost like put up my own armor and shield myself from that.
Yeah.
A part of it is the Ho'oponopono prayer, but a part of it is they need to process all of that and let it go so they can connect to love again instead of the anger, which is a lower vibration, and fear sometimes. People break up. Like I'm working with a man right now that is going through a divorce. And it's scary. He's been with this woman for a long time and being on his own. He's angry, he's bitter because his kingdom fell apart. But he's got to, go through that process. And if he's tired of suffering and being angry, that's how he's going to attract love again. People are not going to be attracted to a bitter or angry man who's going to be talking about his past all the time. Want someone with love in their heart. And not fear, because fear is the opposite of love too, right?
Absolutely.
That's how we get our light back. We don't take on other people's stuff.
I have a question from your perspective on this then.
Okay.
If Deanna is I don't want to say the best version of yourself, but is the purest energy, like of your personality, like when you are living your personality, your energy, your vibration to its fullest extent, do you think there will be any human... Okay, let's say we lived in a world where everybody lived their personality to its fullest. Everybody was just fully themselves, full of love, a utopia. Do you think there would still be people in the world that you don't resonate with?
Oh my goodness. You're really good at your questions, Anton. I don't know, but my thoughts on it as I just process that question, because that's an intense one, we're still very unique, but if we all truly believe that we are love and we return to love, we would be getting closer to a utopian society. But obviously, the definition of utopia is like it doesn't exist.
Not non-place.
Right. But if we keep going in that direction by going towards the light and our darkness through acceptance and cultivating compassion and understanding, then we would get closer to utopia than the world that we live in now, where there's so much suffering and there's battles of egos and people are looking for happiness outside of their self instead of inside their self. Because truly happiness is an inside journey. There's going to be lots of things that are going to elevate that happiness, but you got to be happy inside with yourself and accept everything about you. And I'm not just talking about the physical. I'm talking about the whole journey. Like I said, the suffering in the past of the people that hurt me, they're forgiven. They're so forgiven. I've done my crazy screams. I've done my anger. I've had my cane. I've had all my tears. I've cried 1,000 tears. But do I want those tears anymore? No. I want just beautiful flowing love and energy and peace and joy. Like I said, I want to be a human vibrator. That's where the utopia is. And if everybody can get to that level and park their egos, they have a better chance at going towards a more utopian world instead of a suffering world. And helping others when we can, and being kind and compassion. It's all under the umbrella of love, isn't it?
Isn't that beautiful,
and
though?
having faith too, Sorry, I just want to say, like, we all got angels around us. We just got to listen to them. And that's the universe. That's where the angels are. They're in the universe. We just have to listen to them. We do.
Do you have a strong relationship with your spirit guides and your angels and all that?
I do. Every single day. Sometimes the lessons, I don't like them, but I realize, I have to accept that it's for my best good. Some of them are really tough lessons. The toughest ones are the ones I go, God, you were right. You were right. So you're right is when you park your ego and you accept that someone else is right as well. And sometimes you don't even agree, but you want the peace part, right? So you have to, the calm. Because, the storms are stormy. The waves are rough. And when they're rough, there's no mirror. You can't see. But when it's clear and calm, you got a better view, right? And you do the right thing when you're calm. But when you're angry, you're not going to get the right answers. It's not going to return you to love, which is where most of the answers are, actually. Love for yourself and other people.
Oh, that is the end of it. So we're going to go into shameless plug time. So if you could share with myself and the audience what you're currently working on, where we can find you, all of that stuff.
Okay. So I have 2 books published on Amazon. One is The Goddess Compass, and it's basically a trip into my journey, and you just got the short version of it here. I have another book that I wrote, and it's basically affirmations for every day of your life for 365 days. But it's also a book. It's colorful, but you can actually write on the book as well on your iPad or your Kindle, or you can buy it and write right in the book. And it's a collection of affirmations that I use every day. And sometimes they're just miraculous for me. So I hope they're miraculous for you. I also have a website. It's goddesscompass.com, goddesscompass.net. And that's where I do my coaching. And you can look at a part of my journey there. There's also a blog, lots of free information. And I just love what I do. My mission in life is to help other people get over their suffering. And I feel that every day something happens that I can just go and take it and put it into my business. It's very difficult to separate a mission when your business is your mission and your business is your life. It truly is. And I don't even want to separate it because it elevates me and it gets that vibration higher. So, and I also offer a free 30-minute call to see if we can work together to help you get over your suffering. And that's free for 30 minutes. And then we can decide where we go from there. And I've had people barter with me if they couldn't afford it too. I can't say that's one thing I love, but I really feel hard to not help somebody because that's what I'm here for. My heart is the earth, actually.
And one thing I will attest to is I remember when we had our intro conversation to anyone who's like, I wonder if Dean is the real deal. Like literally, I think like we were supposed to have a 30-minute call and I think it went for like an hour and like literally you were like coaching me on that like meeting. It was supposed to be a meeting call for a podcast. And I told you some stuff and like you literally like wrote down some notes. You're like, you know what, Anton, this is what I'm seeing. So anyone that doesn't believe that you're the real deal, like you're very open-hearted and just seeing what you've, just the way how attentively you listen to me. Like I'm very empathic. I can feel people's vibrations. And, I know when people see me and when they don't. And I know that whenever I speak to you, I feel like you are peering right into my soul. So I sincerely believe you're very good at what you do.
Thank you so much. It's connection. It's connection in our oneness. It really is. Nobody should be left out of love. Nobody should suffer.
I hear you. All right. Well, Deanna, this was an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on.
It was my pleasure too. Take
right.
care. God bless you.
All right.
Love
Take
to
care,
all.
everyone.
Bye.
Welcome back, everyone. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to let me know in the comment section down below. And if you want to check out more episodes just like this one, click right here, and I'll see you in the next one.